Hello, and welcome to a Break for Assault unboxing video. I'm Lee Parnell, recording from somewhere in the south of England, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new Magach 6 for WW3 Team Yankee. The Magach 6 is not new to WW3 Team Yankee. It first appeared in Other Wars, albeit as the earlier version were era armour. It's also been in Fate of a Nation as the earlier Magach 6 as well. And the two tanks are very similar in the two games, being basically an M60A1 without all the bells and whistles of the M60A3. However, World War III Israeli introduces the new Magach 6 with Blazer Explosive Reactive Armour, or ERA. This consists of various blocks of armour that have been attached to the outside of the M60. Along with the new armour, the Israelis also improved the fire control system, using what's called a GAL system, which consists of a new sight block for the gunner, as well as a wind correction device attached towards the rear turret. Additionally, cupola has been ditched in favour of a low profile example, with the 50 cal moved up over the barrel, be a solenoid fire device coaxial to the main gun, and the commander getting a 30 cal with the loader also getting a 30 cal. This thing is dripping in machine guns. The effect of all these upgrades was to basically bring the M60 up to, well, surpass the M60A3 build standard, albeit obviously not packing complete uranium rounds that the American example has. In Team Yankee terms, that basically translates to having a medium battle tank to complement the Macabre series, being somewhat cheaper, not quite as able to stand up to thin rounds, but able to take at least a few hits from RPGs and some of the smaller anti-tank guy weapons, such as the Saga, allowing the tank to basically wade into enemy infantry and push them off an objective and not be too susceptible to any action the enemy taking it until the big boys come along and take its lunch money with some AT-21 spandrels or similar. Battlefront was kind enough to send me some unboxing material, including this Magach 6 box, so let's crack it open and take a look inside. The Magach 6 is your standard sort of deep box. It's in the plastic bruising. Going to have 5 Magach 6s inside. So let's have a look. Maybe I can see the sprues in there. Okay, so we have side cast turret bits and the side cast bits and pieces. We'll get those open in a sec. And then we have, as expected, 5 M60 sprues, all very standard there. So instructions to explain how it all goes together. Interestingly, yeah, not on the back of the box like they sometimes show the explode view. And then, much to my kids' delight, some bubble wrap. Let's have a quick look inside that plastic bag. So we have our crew figures here, one of whom has had an unfortunate end by the looks of it. I know he's really suffered from high crew casualties, but that's probably taken a little bit over the top. We've got, I'm guessing, one of the M60s. Doesn't say where that goes. I'm going to guess it goes for the crew machine gun on the side there. Sidecast looks pretty good at a quick glance. But the actual bottom doesn't look too bad. Compared to the M60s I had for the US Marine Corps box, that looks pretty sound. We then have I guess that's the storage box. Oh yeah, I see, that goes in the back. That's on the extra bits and pieces. And their wind correction gear for the modern fire control system. And then the front ERA storage. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll get one of those built up and we'll take a better look. In terms of assembling the Magach 6, we start off with a fully assembled lower hull. We also take from the sprue one of the open or closed low profile cupolas, the sleeved 105mm, which I believe is what they all use as standard. I haven't seen an unsleeved one. Over barrel 50 cal, cupola 30 cal. And then for the new pieces, we have the turret assembly, which includes the base plate. So worth noting that you can assemble both turrets in theory, but I think you're going to run out of these bits if you're making a low profile cupola. You then have the forward ERA blocks for the lower hull, the loader's FM mag, And then this assembly here, which goes along the top and basically provides the Israeli style wind sensor, as well as these bits, which I haven't quite worked out yet what they are. I think that's ammo crates. I think that's a general storage box. So in terms of assembly, let's start off by getting the bits onto the upper hull. We are going to put the glue in here and glue on the actual top assembly. You can see here there's pegs. Square peg goes over the circular part. Rectangular peg goes in the bit you can see there. Let's get right in like that. Press it down. Okay. And we're going to put a bit of glue in this little indent here for the FM mag. As you can tell, I've got a bit of cold still, so apologies for that. Okay, like so. That assembles all the Sinocast parts of the turret. The actual fit of the era blocks and the glass plate. I found the first one I built, the gap between the two light structures was a little tight. I had to do a little bit of shaving. This one seemed far better, though still a bit of a push fit. Not that that matters at during the assembly stage. So we'll put some glue there, a little bit of glue along the nose, like so, and then push it on like that. And that makes the lower hull. Back to the turret. Let's get the cupola on. Put a bit of glue in there. And knock that off. I hope on the side cast doesn't the glue grips it, but it does seem to take a bit longer than normally would do. That's in place. Okay, next we'll do is put the barrel on. Yeah, so what the tanks are converted to the era configuration were a mix of guns, tanks with the later sleeved 105 from the Americans and unsleeved 105s from the earlier batches, which then received an Israeli sleeve. Now, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of differences between those two sleeve variants, but I think the plastic sleeve captures it fairly well. There could be like minor differences in how their brackets work or something, or straps, I imagine. Like that. Okay. Just making sure the barrel is straight, because I have found the barrel tends to get a bit wonky if you're not careful. Okay, we can switch back to the polystyrene cement, putting the cupola 30 cal on. And then, okay, for over barrel 50 cal, we just do a little bit of super glue onto it, and it goes into this slot here. Like so. And that gives us a fully assembled Magach 6 with era. Let's consider Magach 6 as a model first. The base IM60 is a pretty solid model, one of my favourite plastic kits. I especially like the way the actual sort of boat-shaped underhull sort of comes across with the tracks. It's really quite a nice feature. The new Sinocast parts are pretty solid, quite literally. Compared to the US Marine Corps era, the actual blocks are better defined. There's a couple on the underside where they do sort of break down a little bit. Not quite as much as US Marine Corps M61s did. The FM mag that goes on for the loader's hatch is pretty well realised. I like the little mount for it. Another neat feature is the 6mm mortar appears alongside the commander's hatch. The little cylinder you can see just below it is the 6mm mortar. The add-on stowage with the wind sensor is not a particularly great fit. I think it's going quite a little. I must attempt to cut the tabs off and just glue it on without the tabs, and then put a clamp down to make sure it stays down. It's got a bit of bend to it. I had to fight. And if you look on the actual model that's going around the thing, there, it's a little wonky. On the actual stowage bins, there's extra stowage. You get 3 different designs. In the box I got, you got obviously it'll be two of them and one of the other. You get all of them have a canvas cover at the top, which seems pretty standard for most spray tanks. And then they've got some bits bolted to the outside, such as jerry cans, bed rolls. All of them seem to have a square panel middle of the back for the tactical symbol. The actual blazer itself, I like the fact it's got like the big smoke launchers on. They look pretty cool. The rest of the detail is relatively crisp, and all the plastic parts integrate to it fairly well. Really like the way the 50 cal goes on. That seems quite snug. I always feel like the 50 cal is going to be exposed to quite a lot of stress from most storage mediums putting the models in. This one, it's got a lot of bite for the super glue to rip it onto, so that's good. Obviously, it's missing some of the whole era blocks. You tend to see the triangular blocks that go out on the side flanks. This was the same in the M60 kit. You've got the big block that goes between the driving lights, but you haven't got the smaller blocks, individual blocks that go on the outside of the hull, which give the driver more protection. This is probably a Venn diagram of people who care about that and people who can model it are fairly similar circles. I reckon cutting up the spare panels from the Centurion, I got some left over from building the Foan Centurions, will probably rectify that. Obviously, I managed to scratch building fairly easy on the M60. Not going to hold that against Battlefront. I can kind of understand why you don't do it. It'd be just weird little triangular bits that are floating around that people then have to go in roughly the right place. Not everyone's going to care about that for what is essentially a wargame model rather than a fine detail model. Overall, I am quite happy with it. I mean, effectively, the actual price of the box is no different to a standard M60 box, which was quite nice. The sidecast parts effectively are not putting any kind of cost delta in on there. Another nice feature is the fact you can build a modern Magach 6 with blazer turret and a 1970s Magach 6 turret for Foan in the same model. Obviously, swap them out as you need to, thanks to the fact the actual sidecast turret is entirely solid and has the base plate on it. Slightly offsetting that is the fact you only get 5 in the box when you come in units for free. That's obviously not a big issue if you're actually building a whole formation, but if you want to add just one unit on, you are going to have a couple spare tanks. So let's look at it from a game perspective to see if it's actually worth putting in the army. The actual baseline M60 really suffers from the damage points coming down. 3 Magach 6s without blazer are 11 points. When you consider that 2 Macarver 2s are also 11 points. They have the same gun. Against the standard Magach 6, obviously the armour is much better at BD armour versus the standard armour. 3 Macarver 1s are 14 points, only marginally more expensive. Magach with blazer actually compares more favourably. So again, 14 points for 3 Magach 6 blazers compared to 14 points for 3 Macarver 1s. The Macarver 1 enjoys rate of fire 2 and a laser rangefinder, which are big advantages. But mobility is more or less the same. In fact, the cross is less on Macarver versus Magach 6, which still is at 2+. They have a similar amount of firepower for the machine guns. The actual stat line of the 105 is no different to the two of them. But the Magach 6 is now enjoying era armour versus the Macarver 1's bazooka skirts. Even when you start looking at the other tanks, obviously, to get the equivalent armour, you're looking at 3 Macarver 3s. And 3 Macarver 3s are, even with damage points, 33 points. You were getting 6 Magach 6s with blazer for 3 Macarver 3s. If you want a tank to just wade into the enemy infantry, relatively proof it against a standard RPG 7, then that puts the ball firmly in the Magach 6's court, in my opinion. The actual firepower obviously doesn't change. It feels a little bit of a dig against the Magach 6. It should, by the time they upgrade with like their Gal fire control system, they should be far better in terms of the actual ability and firepower. The problem you get here is you start really butting up against the Macarthur series. I'm guessing there's a need to have a differentiator compared to those tanks. But I think, like I say, I can see certainly a case for having some Magach 6s in an army as a cheap breakthrough tank. Something you can just send against the enemy lines and wade through and break through at the opportune moment. Like era blocks, rather than risking a Macarthur 3, which would really be dealing with enemy tanks with 120mm. I think there's definitely a case for the Magach 6 existing alongside the other tanks. So anyway, hopefully that's informative and you've enjoyed the video and can see sort of like say whether this is worth your time. I think it is if you're on this raid player. I think, like I say, one box of these, it's going to go away. Obviously, like, subscribe, leave a comment below. I do enjoy reading the comments. And we have one more video to come up for the RBY, which will be next on my editing list. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you later. Goodbye.